And there you have it. Now this morning I come out here and it is, whoa, it was in single digits overnight, and it's probably up around 10 or 15 degrees now, but you can see your breath. Anyway, there's ice on a pond, it's freezing cold, and I wanted to mention something. God, hands are cold. This is very funny. And I love Turbo Steve, he's a great friend, he really was helpful, and thank you for helping me install a microwave. He sent me a link to a battery tender that has, you can charge 100 motorcycles at one time. Well, I don't think Turbo Steve understands. I love to come out in the morning when it's this cold. What a day to do this. I love coming out here in the morning and starting my day off with oogling the bikes and checking everything out and thinking how nice it would be if I lived out by Dallas and we could be riding these GS's together or something. Or think of, and I probably will put some of it at the end of one of these videos, I dug up some old pictures of the FZR. We went out for a ride on a snowy day. Oh my God. Memories of these bikes, the time we spent restoring them. But that's not the good news today. The good news today is I don't know what the heck I'm going to do today. This cold, I'm not staying out in this garage. I'm going to get the hell out of here. But I do have a couple of projects. I do have to change a tire. And there's a chance, a good chance, Luciano will stop by. He's got some RD parts for me, and I have a tire for him. So we'll have a cup of coffee, catch up on old times, and relive those days we rode up to, well, I think I was riding this bike too. And poor Joe Roselli was so cold, and the snow was this high. And we got off the bikes and took all pictures, and we were all freezing. And I was wondering, why didn't we just get together at Joe's house for coffee and pepperoni pizza? But looking at the pictures, it warms you up on a day like today. Anyway, it's so cold, I want to get the hell out of here. It is really cold. This is the coldest day of the year so far. So I'll be honest, sometimes I come out here in the morning and I just look at the bikes and I just think, wow, we're going to have a great summer. The only trouble is today's not going to be one of those summer days. But I really do, and I come out here, I call it oogling. I like to oogle my parts. And it'll be real nice if Luciano stops by and we can have extra coffee and who knows what else. Always good seeing our friends in the middle of the winter. But I do notice as I'm getting older, and Luciano and I agree on this, as I get older, I used to ride all the time when it was really, really cold. Then I started riding when it was really cold. And today, I don't even think about it anymore. What I think about, I wake up, I think about that coffee pot. And I got to chop ice on a pond, that's another thing. Oh. So there's Luciano's tire. I assume he's coming. He said he's coming, but you never know. And it's definitely going to be a pretty exciting half-hour cleaning this pond up of the ice. Oh my God, it is so cold. I forgot when it's below single digits. I forgot how much fun it is. So here we have the current conditions in Rutherford, New Jersey. 14 degrees. It's up to 14. It was below 10 when we woke up. Ooh, it's coming right up there. It's supposed to go to 32. But we're not painting anything today, so this is not fun to go riding in. And boy, it's always good to see friends you haven't seen in a long time. Well, I haven't seen Luciano in 2 weeks since he got his new bike. And the puppy. When it's this cold, we usually give the birds suet as well as the feed they normally get in their feeder, but it's so cold this morning. I guess they're out. I guess they're just as cold as we are. Boy, oh boy. I don't know how they survive over the winter. But they do have suet today, too. Lucky birds. Oh, they always love it when I feed them suet on a cold day. Ooh, it's brutal out there. So I was going to change tires. So last night before I went to bed, I put the tire up by the heating vent. But I'm not sure we're going to get to that today because sometimes these Luciano visits turn out to be so much fun I don't feel like working at the end of it. So, and this is the first time Luciano's seen the project in real life, and of course I think anyway that the gold and the paint work on this project, I don't think you got to see it in real life, not on a video, but it is that wheel actually is ready to put the tire on and do the blackout and make it to do that, but there's no guarantee. Every day that Luciano and I get together, you never know how it's going to play out. Now everybody knows I do like every day being different than the day before. I don't like to have these Groundhog Day days, and it's always my top priority to not to get too far ahead on anything, because the days change and my babysitting schedule changes, Karen's things change, and my friends, and like today, pay these unexpected visits, and we enjoy them more than you can imagine. How many battery tenders do you have? More than Turbo Steve? You got too many tenders.
I got one for myself. I charge myself too.
Do you go out in the morning to the garage and touch all the motorcycles and sit on them and stuff?
I hook it up and charge you money.
Well, you better up the voltage. Maybe the battery's dead. Look at that. We got him addicted to Windy Cream and the Windy Coffee.
I need coffee in the morning.
That's for sure. That's a great book. Ray loaned us this book when Luciano, he's already seen it. So, what a great way to start a day. A lot of stuff about Italian motorcycles in there I didn't know.
Yeah,
that's a great book.
Some of the stuff about the 50cc two-stroke.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Ray, thank you so much for loaning us the book. And I got a lot of the old DVDs now. I'm starting to convert them. I'm going to put some stuff on a video. The Motor Guzzi, the one with a V8, that's another one.
And we're going to keep it, this book.
We're going to hold it hostage.
I get this book back.
Where's my money?
New puppy keeps us busy.
I hear every time the puppy's biting you.
Yeah, you said the puppy's biting.
Oh, he's got sharp little teeth.
Yeah, always sharp.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the adult teeth are coming up now. Yeah.
Come on, you know, you're jealous. That'll look good on your Ducati, huh?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, let's go. It looks better in real life than in Rub your hand on it.
Yeah.
That's all hand buffed, baby.
The factory.
No, that's not even. Not even a Ferrari factory can do that. That's perfect.
I like the gold. Gold. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a. It looks good in real life too.
You use a real gold, right?
Real gold. I put it on your credit card too. You get the bill at the end of the month.
You buff this or you just spray?
Oh no, that's buff. Touch it.
Oh,
touch it.
God.
Come on, it took me 2 days to do that.
Spend so much time on
Me.
on the wheel?
Me.
Oh God. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's going to look nice when we're cruising around.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Cruising around.
Yeah.
Look at some of the other parts. These came out nice. I made some carbon fiber parts. These are made.
Oh, you made this?
Yeah, they came out nice.
Wow.
You don't see the back, so I'm not going to spend time on it. Don't get fingerprints on it, please.
Oh,
you're all done. Put a little.
good.
Ah, my bike, my bike. This came out nice.
Yeah.
All the fairing parts are good. This I like. The instruments. I did the instrument panel over.
You basically reassemble most of the parts, right? You put the lights back on.
Oh, everything. Yeah, yeah. I'm doing a little at a time. I'm not rushing.
Ooh.
Ooh, you can't even feel that, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, show me yours. Wow. Do you remember this day? Do you remember the day?
Absolutely.
Oh my God! Do you remember this day? Look at these days.
I wasn't there that day.
What? Do you remember this day? Look at that! Look at that! Oh,
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh, God.
Remember the day I dressed up like Kenny Roberts and Turbo Steve took?
That wasn't you.
No, I know. Turbo Steve photoshopped the Kenny Roberts onto my bike.
Yeah.
What he should have done is put me on a bike. This came out nice too. You have these on some of your bikes, don't you? The Sprocks?
I got one on my Ducati, the Monster, but it's not the same brand.
Feel the forks. Rub your hand on the forks.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm telling you, you're a lucky man. I know me. You'll.
Don't tell me you're gonna put the big ugly windshield back.
No. There's the windshield right there.
You got a clear one?
This is the one that comes with the bike, and I got the shorty one too. And because you're such a good friend, I gave one to Turbo Steve too. Look at that. He's got the official Aldi pepperoni stromboli.
That's the one I like. Yeah.
And when you eat this, you'll start to look like me. You'll think about me when you're sitting in the bathroom the next day.
Thank you.
It's almost a new tire. It's only got 700 miles.
This is off.
That's off the
650?
the Kawasaki. Yeah.
Wow.
Free tire. Turbo Steve didn't want it. Nobody wanted it.
Okay.
It definitely, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. Believe me.
Put the check in the mail.
Yeah, and write the check on ice and pay me in July. Okay.
Okay.
Good seeing you, my friend.
Okay.
All right, take it easy. Don't drip any oil in my driveway. So once again, we enjoyed Ray's book and we had a good conversation. Had a lot of fun, but it's time to get back to work. So we had a great visit with Luciano. Now this is one of the things that I did not want to forget to do while I have time today. It's water-based flat black paint that I got at Lowe's that I've used for blacking out the parts of the wheel that when you're all done with this you really don't see. Now the reason for water-based paint is very simple, and I just didn't want to demo it, but I'll take a Q-tip now. I got a little drop here on the side. I didn't want to have it. The water-based paint comes right off. Sometimes the automotive paint will just put a scar on your paintwork. So this is really a little time consuming to get this right, but it's a little detail that I didn't want to leave out. Now in here you don't see it, of course, don't have to worry about that, but you do see down through these holes into the center of the wheel. So I want to get that all blacked out. And one of the things I always think about is when you're new to motorcycling, or you buy your first bike, or when you've only been riding a few years, you always tend to think it's all about the bike you own. And in the end, when you've been doing it for 60 years or 55 years, you realize it's about the people. And it's about the interaction and the fun you've had along the way. And boy, Luciano and I have had some fun. We have had some great track days. We have had some great street rides, and we've had the tragic accident he had last year that he looks like he's almost fully recovered from. And well, all I can say is thank God he is, because we're glad to have him back. And this summer we plan on doing a lot of riding together. That cool little bike he has when I went up to visit him. And by the way, these visits, there's a lot of people I know that they kind of missed the boat on it. They go the whole winter without seeing any of their friends. Well, we try not to do that here, but sometimes it works, and today it worked. Now, I think everybody that's ever watched my videos knows I'm not a fan of flat black, that's for sure. But in this case, it does serve a useful purpose, and because I want this to disappear. And usually, when you have something you don't want to call attention to, because the workmanship is shoddy or it just doesn't look good, it's not in keeping with the style, painting it flat black is one of the ways you can kind of mask it over. And when you want to really show off your workmanship and polishing skills, you want it to be shiny. This is actually a part of the job that takes longer than I thought it would, but so worth it. When a bike is all put together, this is one of the things you say, ah, final little detail. And this is the kind of thing that I think in the very end of a job, when you look at it all put together and all out there in the driveway or at your local bike get together, this is one of the little details that you don't notice. You don't notice that there's overspray in here or something that's not attractive, and then you think, oh, I'm glad I took that little time on that freezing cold day and took care of business. And in our case, we're not getting paid by the hour. In fact, we're not getting paid at all. So there's no reason to skimp on quality. When you're not getting paid by the hour, there's no reason. That sounds like I made up something worth remembering there. So these are the Curvy Girl, the valves, the 90-degree valves. Actually, they're probably 85 degrees or whatever, but the reason for using them is a very simple thing. I like to check the air every time that I ride the bike, and this makes it very convenient, whether it's a track day or whether we're just riding around and the temperature has changed. I always like to keep the tires at what I'm comfortable with. And keep in mind, we usually run a little bit lower than standard pressure because the roads are very bumpy here, especially in the winter. So step one is using a little tool to put the valve in, and not to over tighten it and not to leave it loose. It's kind of a touchy-feely thing you have to do, and if it leaks, tighten it a little bit. But if you over tighten it and strip it, you have to keep in mind these are aluminum parts now, not steel, and they are a little bit lighter than the parts that come off the standard parts. And they're from Curvy Girl, K-U-R-V-Y, Curvy Girl. And because we're trying to share useful information, and a lot of times the things that people would really like to get from a video, they want to be entertained, of course, and so do I whenever I watch TV, but I like to pick up some useful information. And there's some useful information about these valve stems. I have ordered many sets of them. I basically have them on all 8 of the bikes. Here's what happened though. Many times I would order them not knowing if they're 8s or 11.3s, and they come 2 different diameters. And if you order the wrong diameter, they're very happy that if you shed them back, they'll send you the right ones, but you lose time while your wheel is apart. Now another thing, once that's in, it almost goes without saying, I have seen people, because this is aluminum, go like Godzilla, and you can strip them. And by the way, you can strip this and never ever put Loctite on it. You put Loctite on that, you're asking for trouble. Now I also, off camera, I cleaned that up, buffed it, and radiused that edge just a little bit with some 2000 grit paper. The reason is this little lip is going to seal on the side, not on the top. I don't want to have it that it catches it and it puts a little gouge in it. It is relatively delicate. So here's the other little tip. I would always want this facing, so when the motorcycle is on the side of the bike, that it's leaning a little bit. None of my bikes have center stands. It's leaning the side that it's easier to access, so it would be on the brake side of the bike, not the clutch side. Just easier to get at the tire valve for the checks. Now I had to take a wrench and grind on it to get in on this set of wheels. I had a set of a wrench that was perfect for that. I want to make this tight enough. This is the whole thing in a nutshell. I want to make this tight enough that I can't really move that, but I don't want to lean on it with a pry bar. And it's kind of tricky to do that. The first time you strip one, you'll know exactly how tight to make it. Now, they are aluminum, and there is a little bit of a feel for it, and there we go, right there. And only because I've done it so many times. I'm such an expert. Anyway, I'll put the tire valve on, because no reason, just so we don't lose it. And that's ready. Now we're ready to mount up the tire. And this is something I like to share on all the videos, because a lot of people are intimidated by a tire change. This is the way I do it, so I don't, objective of doing this, instead of using a tire machine. Luciano has a tire machine. I could just go up to his house. I don't want to take any chance of scratching the rim. These are no, precious metal, I guess is the right word. And I don't want to scratch it. And this is the way I've done for many, many years, and it's never failed me yet. Now, information worth sharing. Anytime you're going to put a tire on, first off, most of the damage you do to a rim is when you take a tire off. And we usually cut them off with a Dremel tool. Though I don't have that problem of scratching a rim, taking off it. Now, to put this tire on, I want to get it on. I used the Gorilla Tape method that I've used, and I don't know if somebody else invented this, but it works for me. And I've seen people do it with zip ties, and I've seen people do it with other things, different things, but this is a way that's very simple and it works every time. So step one, across the side of the shop, let that tire sit up by a heating vent, or if you live in a sunny place, put it out in the sun and put it out there the minute you know you're going to change your tire. A warm tire makes it so much easier to change. So step one is to mount the wheel. I put a couple of towels underneath it because I don't want to get it scratched up, of course. And if you don't have the discs on, it's definitely easier to mount it without the discs on. In this case, we're going to put the disc on as the very last thing. So just so people know, this is Gorilla Tape, and it's of course available at Lowe's or anywhere. Anytime I work with this, it's easier to work with it without gloves, even though it just chews your hands up to a certain degree doing this. It's definitely easier to do it without gloves. What happens, the gloves stick to this, and so that's step one. I always try to make 4 stripes. In fact, I always put 5, and I'll just put them at some convenient spot up here. They don't need to be any special length, but if they're too short, it's not going to be to your advantage. And then you got, the idea is to take that tire away from the heat, put the 4 bands of Gorilla Tape on, and put the lubricant over the edge, and in as short of amount of time as possible. Now, this would not be necessary if we were out in the bright sun, because that tire would be 128 degrees. Here, it's probably 70. I would say even under a heating vent, it never gets more than 70. So I've got that, even in 1 extra piece of tape, because I want to start this and go right through it, grab it, and mount the tire. 1, 2, 3. I don't want to sit here, have a cup of coffee, answer the phone, watch a YouTube video. This is like one of the few things that I try to expedite a little bit. Now, as the thing that you put on the rim, and you really only need to put it on one side, by the way, and you really only need to put it on the top side of the tire, but it doesn't hurt to do the whole thing. The Nomar, this works fine, and I don't remember how much it was because Bob Navola bought it for me. I changed some tires for him or whatever the hell we did. But we always have plenty of Dawn around the house, and I've not found that the Dawn or this or Windex work a whole lot different. A little point of discussion that I've never found the real answer to. I've found several things that seem to work. Number one is, and this tire is really not warm. This might not be as easy to get on as the front one, but it is true. Wider tires go on easier than skinny tires all the time. I've found that to be true. This is no big deal though. It's the normal 160 size tire. I need to figure out, and there's no place on the internet I have ever found, and I have looked forever, on Michelin 2 Power Pilot 2 CT tires where the balance point is. Some people, and people that should notice and do know it, have told me this is about where the tire valve goes. I have tried that with some luck. But I've run my hand inside there, and that's not where the tire joint is. And I'm trying to find it. You can find where, sometimes you can find it right away. It's very obvious, sometimes not so obvious. Where that tire is. It's right here. This is exactly where it is, in fact. So because I know this is here, I'm going to take, with my own little, now let's see, I want to drop the tire on. I've got to check for the rotation too. This is all the things I have to think about ahead of time. Okay, the arrow is on the other side. Sometimes there's little arrows around. Okay, this is the wrong side. So it has to be, I've got to find that joint again. And by the way, you can see the joint a lot of times, but you can always feel it. So by using that, that would tell me that that's the heavy part of the tire right there. So, and I can see that's right there. Well, in my case, I can just put a little scratch on. I don't need to have too much beyond that. Anyway, I'm going to look at this now, and in my mind, I want to mount this in my mind 2 or 3 times and say, I want the tire, I want the rotation to go this way because I'm mounting it from the chain side. I want to look down at the arrow. There's always an arrow on here, and there's a little arrow on the back, and I want to make sure I'm not putting, make sure for sure I'm not putting the tire on backwards. So I finally, after all going back and forth, I've got the rotation right. I've got what I think should be the balance point. But again, I wish somebody really knew, because the Pirelli tires have a red dot, and sometimes they don't balance worth a shit at all. So, and sometimes the Michelin's balance, you never know. It's all, I'm sure it's a hit and go thing, touch and go. But anyway, if this tire were warmer, this would be a lot easier. It's not that warm. It's not going to be that easy. So I know ahead of time I'm going to have to expedite this. I want to get, and by the way, this has evolved over many, many years. I've never had a tire machine. Even when I had RDs in the 60s and 70s, I always changed my own tires. But changing them with spoons, you always wind up scratching your nose or something. It's uncanny how unreliable that is. I don't want to go down into where the bead is, but I want to go just above it. I want to press the tape down, and this is kind of we just did this, I don't know, a week ago or whatever on the front tire. This is kind of, I want to pull this tire off the table, and if you don't leave any steps out, this will go very, very quickly and reliably. Now, when I get it to here, I've got to put it back over the table, squeeze it down as much as I can. It doesn't have to be completely crazy. Then I would go to the opposite, to 12 o'clock. Do exactly the same thing. I can feel this tire is kind of hard. It's hard because it's cold. I like to get this to come up here. Brought it back over the table. I always like to show this in real time. And we have, so far, if you see it in real time once, because basically if you use, in my case, I use a lot of tires. And I've got to do this many times a year. And it's nice to be able to do it in-house. And basically for the cost of the Gorilla Tape, which is almost nothing. Okay, and once all 4 are on, we put a little bit of lube on. I'm going to use the Dawn this time. but it really doesn't matter one way or another. And we go right over to the tire. Move this out. Just want to show, this is the tricky part. Show this in real time. Now, you're done with that part of it. Now it's only the other side. It's only this side that you really have to worry about. This is what's going to take a beating. And I'll go do some to the rim, of course, too. And really no nice, neat, easy way to do this. You just gotta, and the reason is I don't want to take my, I don't want to waste a lot of time here. Okay, put it back. Tire valve now is going to go this way. We're ready to go drop this in place. In reality, you really only have to do the top of this part of the rim here, but I don't know why I do the whole thing. I guess because I'm just old. Okay, we're ready to drop the tire. Okay, line up the valve, line up what we think is the red dot, and there you have it. So we want to make sure we have the tire valve lined up exactly where we want, which is the case. Let's make sure we have this. Now this can be tricky, and I'll show this I like to show this in real time because I think this is really useful information. Step one is, and I always get this, I get the soap on my hands and it's a mess. But I want to grab this, I want to release it. Now once it releases and it's out of the way, I've got to pick away at this until I get this piece to come up. This piece is going to come up, and this is the best way I found to do it. Get it loose and snap it. And I've got to do that 4 times, and just each time make sure I haven't lost my orientation. There I am right there to the tire valve. Not to let that bounce back in there. It really is not that difficult. The most important thing is not to leave any of this tape in the bead. And now, and it's only for my personal, I don't like to have anything dirty or greasy while I'm working on it. Clean up as much of that as you can. I don't think it's real ultra important, but it is nice if you do it. I want to make sure I haven't lost my orientation here, because see, now it's hard to move the tire. So now the next thing is I'm going to bounce this. The bouncing usually will just roughly set the rim, and then we got to fire up the world's loudest compressor. All right, now we're going to find out if it's our lucky day. I love to hear that sound when it pops. Come on, baby, you can do it. Hey! I'll put 50 pounds of air. It popped again. 50 pounds of air in, and then check for leaks. Okay, the reason for putting 50 pounds of air in it, just let it seat the bead real nice. First, I'll check the Schrader valve. This is ordinary Windex. See if I have any bubble. Now, what I'll do is I'll check this tomorrow morning or later tonight to see if I still have 50 pounds of air, and then I'll know we're probably pretty good to go. Now, normally if you have a leak, you're going to see it right away. It doesn't take long, and you start to see a bubble bath here. That looks real good. There's a little edge that you can work your finger around. You can feel that that's seated pretty much the way they want it to, or the Schrader valve. That's seated good. Maybe it's our lucky day. Who the hell knows? Well, you never know. And you never know when it's your unlucky day. And of course, then the big thing is I'll check again that I have the rotation right and my dot, my self-induced dot in the right place. Well, I wish somebody could, and I've had feedback from a lot of people that really know, like Rich Peabody, who has given us lots of good tips. But the Michelin tires are always mystery meat. But one of the people that should know, and I asked him at track day, in fact, and he said, "Oh, Michelin tires are so good, you don't have to worry about that." I don't know about that. Maybe he was working for Michelin. I don't know. Who the hell knows? Okay, so we got, I think, just a perfect seat here. we're really in great shape. I'll clean this all up with a nice dry microfiber and we're ready to put the brake discs on. Now the next thing is to mount up the discs. In this case, disc, not discs. I've cleaned the mating surfaces really well. There's nothing on them. In fact, they're squeaking, they're so clean. That takes care of that. Now see, this is why I'm very glad I wound up spending a lot of time in here, because that's something that you see. It's, well, little touches. A little bit of blue Loctite on the bolts. We'll torque them down to factory spec. And in a star pattern. In other words, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is this point on, we are home for you all. Now, we wound up today, you don't see it on the video, because you never really see all the interruptions and stuff, but we wound up having a pretty good day. I always think when I get another part onto the project bike, I'm really happy. That makes me very happy. Like going out in the morning. And Steve, I hope your feelings aren't hurt, but I do like to go out and change the battery chargers. You know, there's a lot of things in life, it forces you to do things like that. If you didn't have to, or if you had your bikes in storage, I often think, I know Motorcycle Mall has things where they put bikes in storage over the winter and stuff. Yeah, I guess so. But, and for everybody the thing is different, but my passion is, for sure, I really do enjoy going out. I really do enjoy going out there every morning and seeing these. And I know everybody's passion might be just a little bit different than mine, but I know mine makes me happy. And it was really good seeing Luciano today. We really had a really nice visit, catching up. And I always say when people start riding motorcycles, in the beginning, they're overwhelmed by having a faster bike or a quicker or beautiful bike or whatever. And in the end, what you remember most are the friends. And boy, we have had more than our share. When I look back at the friendships and the meeting at Choppers and with the whatnot, sometimes I can't believe I've had that good of a life. We really have had a lot of fun. Now, it's been an unexpectedly, torque these down, unexpectedly good day, considering how cold it was. Oh my God. This was truly the coldest day of the year. Now, before I end the video, I had two things. One of the things is I have really enjoyed every step of this project, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. There's been a lot of twists and turns, a lot of things I thought would be easy that were hard, some things that were hard that turned out to be easy. But I think we are, realistically, we're closing in on having this project. We have one more real part to do, and that's the tank. And I'm guessing the next couple of days, depending on what our schedule is, we're going to be starting that. And if you've been on board with this from the beginning, you know we're in our 4th month of restoration already. And this will probably go, well, we don't know. And I guess, like every adventure, if you know where you're going, it's not really an adventure. But there, while Luciano was here, some of the parts that he looked at, I could tell by the look on his face. He tries not to be impressed, but I know he's impressed. And all of these parts, they are going to assemble into what I hope is going to be a bike that I am going to enjoy riding. And the main thing is, and for me it is the main thing, I will have this bike until the day I die. Now, before the video ends, I'd like to put on a couple of outtakes of, over the years, the fun we've had doing this. And we've done it for a lot of other people, including Glenn. We put a set of slicks on his Ducati. This method, it really works pretty well. Now, I'm showing this just for one reason. This is in the early part. We're doing an FZR tire here, a front tire. In the early part of doing this, I did not realize just how critical it was to get the tire hot, or get it at least warm. And when I would go to mount this, you can see I'm struggling here, and not, I'll get it, of course, but in the beginning, I didn't realize, and I made it harder on myself than it had to be, because once I realized that getting the tire warm was half the job, well, you can tell I was a happy camper. Now, this was another method, a little side tip we used, and Glenn was one of the ones that we did this for, is we used a heat gun to warm up the tire, but this was really time consuming. This just better if you're going to lay it out in the sun, that's for sure. But again, anything you can do to warm up that tire, it definitely makes it easier. And I think from the video, from this video or anyone, if you come away knowing that, you're way ahead of the game. And sometimes it's just the basic things from, at least when I'm watching videos of things, and I'm trying to learn basic information. And again, this thing of lubing, I've used Simple Green, I've used Windex, I've got that stuff that Bob Nivola bought, and anything that makes it slippery works. But of course, you don't want to use wheel bearing grease. The soap evaporates, and you don't need to put a gallon of it on there either. But it was such a good thing as this method evolved for me, and what it has allowed me to do is share it with you, of course, and allowed me to show some of the things that make it easier, some of the things that make it worse. And in essence, if you had these real expensive rims or wheels, or in my case, these wheels are my pride and joy, I will do anything to avoid scratching them. I really am a fanatic for this. I don't want to have scratched rims. There's nothing worse than looking at some beautiful bike, and you can see I'm struggling here. Even though we used a hairdryer or a heat gun, it's murder when a tire is not warm enough. And if you can do this, no matter how you can do it, I even have a heat box. I think Mark Morgan took the heat box with him. I'm not sure. But eventually you get it. It just makes it easier. And I wanted to show these so you don't think that everything is just so easy. It evolves, and every one you do, you get better at. Now, there was a time, and I was working in some really cold weather, and I don't know why. I thought steam was going to be one of the things that made it easier, and actually it did. But it doesn't matter how you do it. In fact, I watched this one video on YouTube. The guy, a professional person, and he just did a big burnout at the end to get the tire hot to take it off. But whether you're taking a tire off or putting one on, it just makes it easier. And I'm just going to repeat it anymore. It just makes it easier. And the whole objective of what we're doing here, and these were the polished rims from the FCR, no matter how you do it, that Gorilla Tape seems to work real well. I'm sure there are other ways. I never think for a minute that there's like one way to do any of this stuff. But if you have a choice and you have a menu of things you can do, in this case, just any way you can do it. But the one thing I don't like to have is when I'm all done, I go to put the tire back on a bike, I bought a big gouge in it. And it's so hard to get rid of that gouge. And you see it, everybody that looks at a bike, they see a chip in a rim. Look at it, look at this drunk. I got to do this when I'm sober. Oh, it's on. Amazing. So I guess part of the thing is you can be drunk and change tires too. Anyway, it looks like we're pretty much done for the day here. So it's been just a truly amazing day. I am so happy to have this done. We are now ready to move on to the next step of the project. This could not have gone better, and it was just wonderful seeing Luciano. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.